Hi, and welcome to My Week After the Show. We're arguing right now about a couple of different things. Stephen has his phone out.
Very important policy.
We're arguing about Saturday Night Live and the 40th anniversary
Terrible show.
thing. It wasn't
think
that
it was
terrible
It was
show.
wonderful. It was
Terrible
really good.
show.
There were several parts of it that were perfect. Seinfeld taking questions from
That
the
was good.
audience was hilarious.
That was good.
But would you have
the
rather
Jeopardy
seen
segment?
Paul McCartney, a clip of Paul McCartney singing when he was, still in his prime?
wanna see
or
that too.
No,
god-awful performance
it was not god-awful. It was not god-awful. It was still good. Anytime you
good.
see Paul McCartney
And-
performing is good.
And Miley Cyrus
was
singing
wonderful.
a Paul Simon song, which I was waiting for him to come out and sing with her when he
But
never
Paul
did.
Simon singing the Paul Simon
Yeah,
song,
it
on the
was-
other hand, was
yeah.
pretty
Can
bad.
I write down the
And
fact
why-
that you just said Miley Cyrus was wonderful?
She
That was a
was.
great
She
performance.
was. I mean,
And it just shows you, she should let her voice do her talking
Right.
instead of
She
these
can sing.
crazy antics, because she's got big talent. She doesn't need all this, headline
good
grabbing stuff.
Kentuckian. She now, it's funny, all of a sudden you can hear her accent much more clearly.
You can hear what
than
she's
you could
singing.
before.
You guys are much more passionate about this than foreign policy. I don't think I've ever heard anything like this before. Well, the reason why we're talking about this is it just came out that Eddie Murphy was supposed to impersonate Bill Cosby
Right,
in one
and
of the
he said he wouldn't
sketches,
do
and
it.
he said he wouldn't do it. And I think that's interesting because someone's coming out. Would you say on Bill Cosby's side on that?
Well, or just saying, look, I don't want to be caught in the middle of all this, right? This is not a good. It's not a good narrative to have your name attached to. I don't think that was a bad
And
decision.
plus, he seems to be boycotting Funny from his performance on that show.
Well, he didn't perform. He just kind of came out and said, thanks. This is like being
He
back
seems
in high
to
school.
be done with comedy, because
But
that
it's
was
so
pretty
tragic
bad.
because he made that show when he was on it, and I certainly wanted them to show far more of the clips of his work on the show, and I was hoping that was what he was coming out to introduce.
That's what I thought he was going to introduce, like a whole clip reel of
they
Eddie
never
Murphy
did
greats.
They never did that. They came out and at one point talked about whoever introduced Eddie Murphy. Was it Jimmy
Chris
Fallon?
Rock.
Or Chris Rock,
Yeah.
right. Came out and talked about all these funny things he had
Like,
done on
just
the
show
show
it.
instead of showing it. And I think that was the weakness of that special. They seemed afraid to go back in their archives and show any.
Can you imagine, though, the egos in that room? It was bizarre. At one point, I saw in the audience Steven Spielberg sitting next to Taylor Swift, sitting next to Sarah Palin.
Right.
That was a threesome right there, and I'm like, what do y'all talk about when you're sitting there?
It had
But
a lot of potential. I don't think it lived
Well,
up.
and it did. There were some really funny things, like Dan Aykroyd doing the Bass-O-Matic thing again that he'd done in the 70s.
that's delicious bass.
And then there was 30 minutes of the Californians, which I don't think anybody
didn't
got.
understand.
It wasn't
What is
30
the
minutes. I
Californians?
do
30
understand.
minutes.
It's kind of funny.
I didn't get that at all. I don't think I'd ever seen
It might
that
have been good
before.
for one skit, but they just went on and on and on.
Well, I think it's ambitious to do 3 hours
you
of live
see-
live
3.5
SNL, because you got to admit, when you watch an SNL episode anyway, it kind of peaks
That
at about
last half hour is
18 minutes
always
in,
pretty
and then
rough.
you're pretty much done.
But did you see a full Gilda Radner skit anywhere in that night? Did you
No,
feel?
tons of
did
clips,
you see
though.
a short little burst,
Yeah.
2 seconds? Did you see Belushi in a full skit? Did you see any of those classics that people remember? I think you came there looking for that.
Yeah, you didn't get it.
Anyway,
Do you know, I think
Media
we were
critics
actually
now.
supposed to do this web extra about foreign policy.
This was better.
Was this better? I think this is the most riled up I've seen you guys
people are
get all day.
interested- More people are interested in this than they are in
we
ISIS.
might should have done this for the regular show.
Well, you never know. You never know what we'll talk about on the web extra. So thanks for joining us, myweek.org. We'll see you next week. You guys are nuts.
Maybe we could voice over the Rhodes interview at the start of the show.
SNL.